severe weather coverage from the Arkansas Storm Team.
All right, a quick severe weather update, folks. I'm Chief Meteorologist Keith Monahan.
Along with meteorologist Hayden Nix. The time is now 12:43 a.m. A lot of you might be woken up by the loud ruckus that is now moving through closer towards central Arkansas.
Not in Little Rock yet.
No.
We've got numerous warnings out there right now. Hayden, why don't we get zoomed in and see exactly where these thunderstorms are headed. Developing not quite the way some of the guidance has suggested. We now have an outflow boundary that's pushed ahead of the thunderstorms, sometimes a sign that those thunderstorms may begin to weaken, but new thunderstorm development has occurred in Garland County, and some of that rain has been on the rather heavy side, and it is approaching the Hot Springs area. Now, no severe thunderstorm warning for Hot Springs, but a new one, Hayden, has popped up and is in effect now for Hot Springs Village, including the Benton-Bryan area, West Little Rock, Western Pulaski County, and parts of Conway, Faulkner, Garland, Perry, Pope, Pulaski, Saline, and Yell counties, with that line of thunderstorms making its way eastward.
Now, they've been putting on all of these severe thunderstorm warnings, up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Now, we just had a couple of social media reports of the thunderstorm that was moving through Conway producing a lot of small hail. So
right.
It's either going to produce a little bit of big hail or a lot of small hail, and we'll likely see either one of those scenarios taking place as this continues to move off towards the east here at 30 miles per hour. And it is packing a lot of lightning here, and I can just turn this on and show you that we've had a lot of significant lightning with these thunderstorms here. Maybe not quite as robust as earlier, but certainly going to be the case there. And Keith, you and I noticed that just a few moments ago before we came on, just to give everybody an update. We're beginning to see what we call an outflow boundary beginning to form here, and that's usually kind of a sign if it starts to push out ahead of these thunderstorms, maybe a beginning point of seeing some of this weakening a little bit.
Right, we don't see that inflow going to the thunderstorms. They're now starting to outflow, so it could be a sign of collapsing. I do want to get up to Conway.
Yep.
You folks up there, we did have some hail reported earlier, still likely to be some hail, some gusty winds with a small thunderstorm with some very heavy rain. That warning in effect for Conway, Faulkner, parts of Lone Oak, Pulaski, and White County. Pretty small thunderstorm. Right now appears to be headed to the east-northeast and perhaps approaching the Holland area. At this point, it looks like the strongest part of that thunderstorm will be moving just to the northwest of Valonia. That thunderstorm packing a punch, although it's small. As Hayden mentioned, social media reports of a lot of hail, a lot of noise with that hail hitting the windows, heavy rain, and some gusty winds as well. And also a developing situation we want to talk about out over parts of Logan County and further off to the west in Scott County with the flooding situation. We have a considerable flash flooding risk now for parts of Yell County as well as Scott County and into the southern half of Logan County. This would include Mount Magazine State Park. It's what we call a considerable flash flood threat. Not quite a flash flood emergency at this point, but certainly a potentially life-threatening situation with some rainfall amounts exceeding 2 to 4 inches of rain. Now, rain may have let up a little bit, but this is very hilly country, and we do have the potential for flooded roadways. We have heard some reports of flooded roadways, as well as some very, very, very heavy rain. So a life-threatening situation with that flash flood warning for parts of southern Logan County, parts of Scott, and parts of Yell County. That would include the Danville area.
And then we do have another flash flood warning that was issued that includes portions of Garland, Montgomery, Perry, Polk, Saline, Scott, and Yell County. I know there's a bunch of them there, but it's kind of right there on the edge of those county borders. That's until 3:30 a.m. And I think they're trying to notice here that the thunderstorms are moving through. It dumped quite a bit of rainfall in a short period of time. I was looking at some radar estimations of anywhere between 1.5 to 2 inches, and there could be a little bit more before all of it's said and done. So they're just kind of making sure that they're proactive with that matter there as well.
Now, that particular warning does not include the I-30 corridor
Correct.
of Saline County, Benton-Bryan area. You're under that severe thunderstorm warning, but you are not in that flash flood warning at this point. But be prepared for that possibility of some very heavy rain as those thunderstorms really kind of slowly sag southward and tap into a lot of moisture we've got sitting across central Arkansas.
Absolutely. So in this part of the state here, we actually have a boundary that's kind of just hanging out, and that's what's really helped get these thunderstorms to just hold together here, and they're just on the edge of a lot of warmth and humidity just to the south, and that's kind of why the longevity of them have just been continuing to hold on here. But as Chief Keith mentioned here, Hot Springs Village, you're just right on the cusp of that severe thunderstorm warning, but they are just mentioning that this cluster that's kind of moving through there, they're noticing that there could be hail maybe up towards that 1 inch in diameter, if I'm not mistaken, on that.
Which is about the size of a quarter, a U.S. quarter. So on the edge of the potential to cause some damage, especially if you're going to be out driving. We have seen a lot of times where people drive and the hail may not be as big as you would expect to cause damage, but driving into it can cause that damage. So 1 inch diameter hail about the size of quarters with that thunderstorm complex, as well as the 60-mile-an-hour winds.
All right, so that is the current situation we have ongoing at this time. We are going to be keeping a close eye on that, especially as that outflow boundary continues to push out ahead of those thunderstorms that are nearing the western edge of Pulaski County and then beginning to move into far northwestern sections of Saline County at this time. Hopefully that helps decrease the severity of that, and we may just see a little bit of thunder and some good downpours happening in that area, but definitely going to be waking up some people. If you're just now joining us trying to figure out what's happening here, we're just monitoring all these thunderstorms that are in between the I-30 and I-40 corridor in west central Arkansas at this time. And as soon as we're done with this live video, you can go back and watch it again just to get an update.
Right, and I do kind of want to really point out the possibility of flash flooding.
Yes.
In the latest flash flood warning, the one we talked about for the Danville area, part of Logan County, Scott County, and that western part of Yale County, National Weather Service did activate what they consider a considerable flash flood threat, which activated everybody's phone.
Yes, cell phones.
So that's why your phone went off for that. If you're in, if you're one of those service areas, that is kind of a higher level flash flood warning than your standard, which means there's a considerably higher threat of life-threatening flooding. So a lot of phones, I'm sure, going off in the Danville area earlier. That is what makes a difference with that particular flash flood warning. Not rising to the level of flash flood emergency, which is the highest level, but a considerable flash flooding threat for that area, as well as other areas where these thunderstorms are slowly moving through. Absolutely,
and some good news for the Danville area and those locations there. We are beginning to see that heaviest rainfall axis beginning to move southward. So at this point, hopefully the creeks and streams are beginning to ease up a little bit. But yes, they were seeing radar estimates of anywhere between 3 to 5 inches, and that's just over a short period of time. So that's very difficult for creeks and streams to manage, and that starts to overwhelm the other areas just around those
and especially
locations.
in those hilly locations where you have ravines and very narrow areas between ridge lines, you can get that flooding. Now, Hayden, we still do have that severe thunderstorm watch that is in effect. That is in effect until 2 a.m. And you can see a number of warnings, and most of these warnings have been hugging the northern part of that watch, but now we're starting to get those thunderstorms sink southward. That watch still in effect until 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be here watching the situation for you. And again, not only severe weather threat, severe thunderstorms with large hail, damaging winds, but also a flash flood threat as we head through the next couple of hours with those very slow-moving thunderstorms. Let's hope, Hayden, that they start to kind of show a weakening process soon.
Yeah, and not training over one particular location over a long period of time. Now we're starting to see a little bit more movement that gets it out of there and doesn't allow for a lot of significant rainfall to happen over a short period of time. So that's going to wrap it up for our Facebook Live on this update here. Of course, we're still watching for you, and if anything changes, anything immediate that needs to be brought to your attention, we'll get right back on it.
All right, for meteorologist Hayden Nix and myself, Chief Keith, we hope you have a pleasant evening, and we'll break back in or we'll go back streaming on our Facebook Live as conditions warrant. Have a safe evening, everybody.
This has been severe weather coverage from the Arkansas Storm Team.